very grateful to God that He allowed me some health and energy that I can face thousands of people almost every week, almost every day, and interviews like yours. Na haharap ko po, we just had the DCMM first set of interviews for the senatorials, and I was the first set with Chel Joc, no? So I'm very grateful po na I'm surviving it. I'm surviving, I'm climbing, I'm trying to find my way. Thank you.
So, well, thank you, Ms. Gutoc. We appreciate having you here. You know, this is such a rare yet wonderful experience for my group mates, blockmates, and professors to get leadership insights and lessons from you. I believe we will learn a lot more today, especially because we will be speaking with an actual leader.
So, maaari po ba tayo magsimula sa pagpapakilala po ng inyong sarili at kaunting background na rin po as a Filipino civic leader po?
Marami hindi alam kasi marami na po ako na-attend ng FPU seminars is that talagang funny ako na tao. I'm kind of very informal, mahiyain actually, even as a young child na marunong sa buhay, pero because I got exposed to mga foreigners as a young girl in Saudi, pero mahiyain but at the same time palagi nakikipag-chat sa mga tao. Ganun ano? Paano yun mangyari? Still mahiyain in stage at that time. So I am a former legislator. I'm a product of our history, our time of democracy, where in 1991 as a college student we fought against the US bases in the Philippines. So as a 16-year-old na mulat na po yung mata ko sa mga activism of the day, and after college I went back to Marawi after not getting a job in any of my applications for broadcasting. I went back to Marawi and I went to law school here. I went to being a peace worker and civic leader, became a rescue leader at the time of the Marami siege. Sectoral representative under Aquino. Under Duterte, I was commissioner for the Bangsamoro Organic Law. And when the Marami siege came, I resigned from position of commissionership. I did not like the rape jokes that the president expressed, and so I resigned, and I concentrated on humanitarian outreach operations, on water, on providing food for the hungry, for the evacuees of Marami.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gutoc. Okay, so I guess we can now proceed po sa leadership question na aming inihanda. Is that alright po?
Go ahead.
Okay, I think we're all ready. So now let's get into the interview. We prepared 10 questions and we're glad that you'll be answering them for us po.
So, for the number one question po, as a leader, you are always concerned with the well-being of others. Do you take time after a day or a set of period to think on what just happened and journal the outstanding or notable events in which you've encountered?
Yes, I used to be able to write down really more clear diary. In law school, I wrote about my day. I wrote about the kindness, the good things, the failures, incidents. I actually also write down my expenses. So this is a habit I have grown over as a person, that my mother is somebody who spends very prudently. Just because may kaya doesn't mean na okay kami mag-spend for whatever shoes we like. We actually only have a few pair of stuff na I can say na ilan lang yung shoes ko, ilan lang yung kagamitan, because I got it from my mother, who's very conscious about decisions like that, na expenses when many cannot afford, diba? So I think I got that kind of habit of writing down the journals of the day, learnings, insights, positives, reflections. So yeah, I do have that habit.
Okay, so for the second question po, have you ever felt like a failure as a leader because you could not manage how you wanted to lead a group or an organization?
Yes, of course. Always there are failures along the way. Every day there seems to be napakabilis, right? But at the same time, the pandemic slowed us down. But at one point in the pandemic, there were so many months that I was partnering with you, with FEU, with so many schools on videos, on hand washing, on pandemic response, and I wrote about and I presented about what we did here in Mindanao, providing PPEs. In there in Manila, we also partnered with organizations in my group called Ako Bakwit, for the stranded, for the Badjaws, for the indigenous peoples, katutubos there in Manila. So napakalaking time and moment given to us, no, to be able to help one another. And yeah, I exercised it. I used it to I optimized myself na magpartner po sa napakaraming organizations, and I think that's what leadership, diba, is about. In the time of hardship and no leadership, you exercise leadership so that you don't depend lang and you don't cry out loud lang, you just don't complain, but you also do something.
So with that being said po, was there a moment naman po na when you took on a leadership role but did not have the label of a leader?
Yes. So the failures include, for example, palagi naman akong organizing, but sometimes walang darating, no? Nag-organize ka, akala mo you already invited the cabinet secretary, the highest person of the government, and yet you only have 10 participants out of 200 or 100 expected. That was most embarrassing for me. So yung question of learning from them, yes, we learn from them, we try to improve, we try to get lessons. That's why may assessment kami after a meeting, right, after an activity. These are things that you get bumps along the way. There is not always success, no? That's why intention is always something that we build in ourselves. Why do we wake up every day? Why does God allow us to get this, to see the sun every day and breathe the air that many don't have the air to breathe upon and become a COVID patient and die? So meron purpose po. And so even if you exercise all the leadership skills and qualities, be a team leader, be somebody who available always, be on time, meeting deadlines, and yet hindi mangyayari po yung project, hindi mo makukuha yung desired results. These are part of the bumps. These are part of learnings. And I think I learned enough early on as a child advocate, as a youth leader, na hindi lahat maging success.
What about po nung may label na kayo as a leader? Excuse me. Was there a chance where you took advantage of your position, may it be in a fortunate or unfortunate way, and why?
Yung earlier question about leader not being a leader, yeah, yun po yung nangyari sa akin. Naging leader ako sa pandemya na hindi naman po ako nasa position, and I didn't need to go out of the house. I didn't need to go out in the online. I can easily take care of my family na lang. But I really joined organizations like Rotary and Inner Wheel, which really had great leaders as well. So I was inspired by leaders who were bringing leaders like us together so that they mobilized funds, resources, logistics, PPEs to deliver to people who needed it. And so your question on, was there frustrating times, Miss? Ano yung question mo? Was there
a chance you took advantage of your position in a fortunate or unfortunate way po?
Sometimes in a setting na disaster, crisis, war of Marawi, example, talagang there will be times na you have to have quick thinking. So minsan wala kami sa position of authority, but then we say, okay, so we are working with people who need us and we don't have an ID, so hindi kami makakapasok, ganun ba? Or we don't have that kind of position of authority, so hindi kami makakaserve sa mga taong hungry. So there are ways na by which you have to convince, you have to tell the soldier, the police, na, sir, we're here naman po as legitimate volunteers. We've been doing this for so long. So sana po papasukin nyo kami sa eskwelahan na yan or venue na yan so that we can do something. Example lang po iyon, so offhand. May mga ganong experiences po na mahirap talaga because ang kadil mo mga matatanda, mga close-minded, and especially itong pandemya, di ba? If I didn't have siguro motivated leaders who worked with the police and soldiers, I'd give up, no? So there are really great times given by groups and leaders na they can do it, so we can do it, and they've provided the necessary way, no, the necessary opening mechanism so that we can serve more people.
Thank you, Ms. Gutoc. So let us now move on for the next question. What do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed by problems that seems to be piling up one after another? When you take a break, do you think about the present issues?
Yeah, of course. You inhale, you exhale, you say thank you, and you say you take alone time. Guys, kayo muna ha. So parang I believe in rotating leadership. I mean, give chance to other officers or other people who are not in the label to be labeled, because that's me eh. I'm always not in the leadership position, but I take up the leadership position anyway. Ganun po in life. So I'm used to being the secretary, pero I have to be the president. I'm used to becoming the non-president, just being a member, but then be the presiding officer. So parang that should be a training for everyone, that it's in disaster and crisis that we are tested. So you don't have to be the eldest of children to be able to save your younger ones because of this pandemic. Diba? Everyone should be responsible. Yan ang tinuro ng ating pandemya. Everyone should be a leader. Everyone should take care of his body. Everyone should be caring for the other, for the neighbor. Kasi pag mapasukan tayo sa barangay, napasukan tayo, di ba? So everyone is conscious of each other. So yun po ang aking key lesson.
Now, how are you going to address such as typhoons, eruption, earthquakes that need an immediate solution, and restraint problems related to climate change, poverty, and other that are not easy to solve po?
Be ready. Be ready, be informed, have teamwork. Your family is also aware. We always have our gamuts ready, our towels are ready, our malongs, so that anytime merong earthquake or rain, meron tayong bag na agad-agad. Nandiyan na yung gamit if we need to move to a shelter. So we're ready. We always have to be mentally ready, physically ready, conscious of each other, practicing vigilance, no? And training ourselves to become responders. So I am a responder. My children know what to do in case there are earthquakes or disasters. They know how to type a cell phone number, an emergency number in case we're not together. They know how to use a cell phone, even if they're only below 10 years old. So they need to know how to be able to communicate with us adults. So all are ready. Senior citizens, your parents, all around you in your neighborhood. You have a neighborhood network. So we're in touch with our barangay, with our leaders, no, in our community.
Okay po. So do you care about the past issue? Like do you believe that past incidents, or let's say from more than a decade ago, must still be addressed and resolved by present leaders po?
That's why I stand here to run for the Senate, because the past is forgotten. We have 600, 800, 700 years plus. They celebrated in Sulu history of kingdoms of Sulu, and yet we don't know about Sulu or Tawi-Tawi. We don't know and don't travel to each other. Many of us in Mindanao travel to Manila, but the people in Luzon, Visayas, don't go tourism, don't visit Mindanao because of the fear. So we forget about each other, and that's why we can't forget the past, because the past teaches us, the past inspires us that we were one Filipino, respectful of each other. So yun po, this never forget the horrors of massacres. There was the Manili massacre, Malisbong massacre, Palimbang massacre of martial law period of 1970s. So these are real for us, even if they're not in newspapers or in history books.
Okay po, for the next question po. Do you believe that open communication benefits both leaders and followers po? And how can honest communication assist leaders in influencing the public cleverly and eloquently po?
That's the spirit of a democracy. The spirit of a democracy is openness, candidness, exchange of ideas, debate, platform sharing, and that's why also information technology is with us right now. Radio, social media, TV, tri-media, quad media even. So the spirit really of leadership is communicating with each other, knowing the results, knowing what is out there, knowing the budgets, knowing where the money went, the receipts, liquidations. Irresponsible leadership ignores that, and corruption feeds into that, and that's why there's no trust if there's corruption, if there's perception of corruption, perception of mismanagement. So definitely po, honesty, openness are very key, no, to leadership, good governance.
Have your leadership abilities grown and expanded much more than before po ba? And would you be able to go back and compare how you were when you were only starting to gain some of that talents you have now?
Yeah po. Yes, of course. Kaya po tayo tumatanda, we become adults, we mature, we learn, we bump along the way, di ba? Yung mga mistakes natin. These are all things. Of course, your memory fades. Marami tayong makakalimutan. I had so many lost SIMs, numbers that I wish I could go back to, my cell phones that were lost along the way. But yeah, that's why we are growing as human beings. Because I think my capability of communicating has been improved. My shyness, I've overcome my shyness, my fear of crowds, my fear of audiences, my fear of the lights on TV, my fear of being castigated or judged. Of course, I will always face trolls and criticisms, but that's part of also growing and knowing what to ignore.
Okay. For the last question po, what advice would you give to someone who is pursuing a leadership role for the first time?
Don't be a leader. Just consciously do something good. Be a follower. Everyone goes through a ladder. You're going to have to step 1, 2, 3. So learn. Don't apply for it. People will encourage you to be a leader. People will put the label on you. Before you know it, magigising ka na lang, leader ka na pala. So that's my key lesson. Ate Sam Gutoc has always been behind a leader, carrying the bag of a leader, writing for a leader, documenting, taking a picture for a leader for the past 30 years. And I didn't know I would go this position of running for a national position because of a crisis and disaster also in Mindanao, in my homeland, where war took place and took the lives of millions. The confidence of millions of people and took the lives of thousands of people. So yeah, I hope the Filipino youth remember that there are people who sleep in nightmares, who sleep without sleep, who cannot sleep on something, who sleep on sitting, who sleep standing. And so that compels and motivates me to continue to be a leader, even if not in position.
And so thank you po for the great advice, lalo na po sa mga aspirants leaders natin. So maraming salamat po sa pagbibigay ng kaunting oras po para sa aming interview, Ms. Samira Gutoc. And it was a pleasure to meet you po, and we are glad for the opportunity to talk with you today. You have given us an overview of what it is like to become a great leader. So let us now use this opportunity to present the Certificate of Appreciation po. The certificate is proudly presented for Ms. Samira A. Gutoc by the interviewers Hannah Michelle T. Angob, Ma'am Iana Maxine Antonio, Crystal De La Cruz, Dehan Miranda, and Hazel B. Natwell.
On behalf of the Group 2 from Leadership and Decision Making class, for her enthusiastic participation as a guest in this virtual interview held on November 22.
Don't forget to send the videos or messenger me.
Yes po.
Thank you po.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.